All right, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. So this is for February 13th to the 19th of 2017. I do want to say that this channel is using the actual size and location of the constellations. So if you are new, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different, which means your sign might be different, and you'll want to watch this video for the right signs. All right, so this week we are coming off of a lunar eclipse from last Friday. You may have been noticing last weekend maybe some new insights, a bit of awareness, and all in all, this status check, as it always is. And it's always very important with the lunar eclipse, in fact, because it is usually a shift to our life path or some sort of awareness about our life path that then helps us make some shifts and adjustments. So we'll talk about what that means for all of the individual signs, of course, but collectively, I think coming into this week, there is still a bit of awareness, a bit of momentum, and again, a good sort of energy to continue to cultivate whatever those insights were. As we go through the second half of the week, we'll start to enter into the third quarter phase, which will be more about taking action and maybe challenging ourselves to cultivate those things. Now, that was all in Leo. So the insights and again, what we're cultivating this week might have to do with the self-expression. Leo has been helping us see, lunar eclipse in Leo has been helping us see what our passions are, or how we can cultivate the things we're interested in life, or express ourselves, really ignite that inner flame. So it's, not major, not minor, it's just more about learning, which has been the North Node. But the more open we have been, and this week, the more open we are to continue to learn about our self-expression, about the things we're interested in, passionate about, and again, igniting that inner flame. I think can be excellent this week. So the aspects, it's actually quite simple, quite straightforward this week. Not a whole lot going on astrologically speaking from a weekly sense, which could mean that there's a bit of a break. It has actually been quite the astrologically significant beginning of the year. And so this week we just have some sextiles. Usually they just mean a sort of opening, a sort of easiness. We can choose or choose not to cultivate them. And that's essentially what we want to do, is cultivate them, but at the same time, listening and seeing if there is a bit of R&R that's needed, or a bit of a break or rest or something like that, in a much larger sense of things. So let's go and look at this first. Monday and Tuesday, we do have the sun sextiling up to Saturn. So this could be specifically probably feeling quite grounded, in fact. The sun will be finishing up Capricorn this early part of the week, Monday, Tuesday. So it's almost like the last final integrations of all of this sort of patience and seeing things in a more structural way, maybe wanting some order and structure in our life, and all in all just feeling quite grounded and maybe even productive. In fact, it could be a very good week for productive things, specifically these first couple of days with Saturn. And also, too, expressing ourselves. It's a really good week for starting to shift a perspective. We're going to have the sun shifting into Aquarius on Wednesday. And so it'll take some time. It's always a subtle energy. But as we go through the rest of the week, there is this perspective shift and a focus shift. And I think it is going from more of the wanting the structure and the groundedness and the discipline and all of this, especially in terms of how we're expressing ourselves, and shifting into more of a free-spirited part of the chart, Aquarius. I think we'll probably start to see things a bit more progressively, you could say, whether it's in our personal lives or maybe about the world at large or our community, things like this. Quite freedom-oriented with the sun shifting into Aquarius. Freedom-loving, right? It's all about that individuality, being who we are, accessing the eccentric side of ourselves, the eccentric side of life. And that's where the progressiveness comes in. It can be very innovative, seeing things outside the box from a different angle, certainly with the sun shifting into Aquarius. So that'll be about Wednesday. And then as we continue the work week here, about Wednesday through Friday, Mercury will be sextiling up to Mars. All right, so with this one, again, really good for mental activities, could be good for productive stuff. But all in all, I think just the way we're thinking can be quite direct and maybe even quite ambitious, in fact, which again could make it really good for things like deep research or study, learning, writing, correspondence, or maybe just quite simply the routine. Now again, the sextiles aren't like a trine where it's just going to happen, but there's an opening for that. And I think if you are feeling a bit like taking some action with the routine, maybe communicating things in a direct way, or maybe even thinking about things in a direct way, or with a deeper mind, a willingness to learn. It can be an excellent way of working with this. So you can see a lot of these aspects are simply available. And again, we can choose or choose not to use them. I think it's a great week to do that, especially furthering whatever those insights were from last weekend. All right. So let's go and look at this individually for each of the signs. At this point, you can go down to the comment section and click the timestamp next to your sign, and that'll take you to your sign's portion of the video. You can watch this, in fact, for your sun, moon, and ascendant sign. So if you don't know your moon or ascendant signs, there's also a birth chart calculator down in the comment section in the same comment. And that'll take you to a chart, a birth chart calculator, where you can type in your birth details and get your moon and ascendant sign. You will need your time of birth for that, but at least for your moon, generally, you should be able to get your moon sign with just your date as well. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this individually. All right, Aries, let's have a look at this week's forecast for your sign. So first things first, there's a lot of still watery energy. You got Mars and Venus still very much in your 12th house. I think it is good to maybe get a bit of that R&R still, meditative time, whatever it is that's helping connect to your beingness. Some of you might be diving really deep psychologically, seeing if there are any fears or traumas that you can essentially accept or be more aware of within. And all of this whole process for all of you generally about this, either rest or learning more about your spiritual self. This is all so that you can have more peace in your life, a bit more tranquility. And so that's essentially what it's about. Working a bit behind the scenes, getting some R&R, just sort of recharging, because, not too long from now, I believe in about a month, Mars will be shifting into your sign. Okay, and that'll be a very active time for you with your ruler in the first. So as it is cyclically, with all these cycles, it is the time to sort of go within and reflect on things at the moment. Not so much think about things, just reflect, like meditate, like be with it, and just sort of accept whatever comes up in the process. So that's certainly the backdrop to this week, as it has been for you. The sun forming those aspects. Sun will be sextiling up to Saturn. So there is this, again, sort of constructive energy about the first half of the week, especially with the sun in your 10th house of Capricorn. Mercury's still in Capricorn for you. So you are seeing the big picture, right? I think it's very good for productive things like your work, like your career, anything on a public level that involves structures or, discipline and things like this. You definitely have that energy coming into the week, and your mind's certainly there, right? Very good productive time, even though it's very watery in that sense. So the sextile up to Saturn does suggest that you could be feeling quite grounded with your self-expression, particularly, maybe even quite deep. In fact, Saturn's been helping you really connect to the deeper side of yourself. And in this case, expressing yourself in a deeper, vulnerable way, perhaps, open to the matter, to the truth of the matter. And all in all, just focusing on what matters most to you. But it's easy. It's just there. You just have that structure. You just have that order in the way you're seeing things, focused on things, both with the productive life and probably with the deeper side of life as well. Now, the shift with the sun going into Aquarius does signify this new sort of focus shift towards, again, the more like, in this sense of your 11th, maybe your aspirations, maybe a bit of your ideals. You'll probably feel this the second half. Future things, your personal aspirations, hopes and wishes, anything you want to cultivate. That's going to be your source of energy. Where it has been in the productive, certainly shifting into more of the ideals. And if it still is productive, because I think it is with Mercury still in your 10th, maybe even focusing on too, what is the value you derive from your career or from your work? What is the value there? That could be inner value in terms of enjoyment, wanting to give maybe, or be a part of something larger than yourself. That could be through your work, maybe your network circles. Some of you might be networking. Some of you might be getting involved in organizations. Some of you might be calling up some friends and hanging out over these next few weeks with the sun in your 11th. Very group-oriented side of life. The other side to it too is it could be the income from your career also. You could be focused on that, right? How you can derive greater resources and income from anything you are doing productively. So all of this shift towards the idealistic and future perspective of things is a great source of energy for you. Now, Wednesday through Friday, Mercury sextiles your ruler Mars from the 10th. So I think there's a good link this week between the productive and the spiritual and receptive, right? And I think you could be quite sharp mentally, more than likely, or you've got the ability to maybe think straight, think directly. Maybe your communications are going well, the routines flowing a bit, and you could just be open to learning. So some insights could come in, but all in all, I think just cultivating more of the learning about yourself spiritually, again, where you can have a bit of that receptive approach. And then also at the same time, maybe really get into that mental side of things with your productive life. That's been Mercury again in your 10th, really helping you get into that practical, rational, dive deep and learn about, and maybe even get involved in a bit of the, exchanging and writing and communication with your career in some sense. But all of that could be very supportive with that easy aspect. All right, so this is all in the greater context, of course, from last week, when we had that lunar eclipse in your 5th house. So generally this week, it is great to be continuing to move forward with any of those insights. Maybe it had to do with your self-expression. Maybe it's had to do with having a bit of fun or passion or interest in your life. Or maybe cultivating some things that are close to your heart or that you've created in your life from the past maybe 6 months or even before that. So definitely a week of continuation. It is, again, just a sort of opening with these easy aspects. We can choose or choose not to utilize them, but it's certainly involving these key areas. I think your self-expression is good. That's continuing to move forward. Learning about that, essentially. Learning about the things you're interested in. Really good mind when it comes to the productive things. Monday, Tuesday, certainly good for that, even a bit of that depth and deeper side to life, which could come easy. And it's all in the greater context of getting that R&R, that meditative time, which I think you could be learning about, or maybe doing some writing or journaling behind the scenes, or again with your work or something like that, that could come easy Wednesday through Friday. All right, and then there's that shift with the sun into your 11th of seeing things perhaps a bit more idealistically in terms of how you can cultivate the future things. All right, so Aries, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares, and I will see you all next week. Taurus, let's have a look here at this weekly forecast for your sign specifically. So first things first, let's look at Venus. Venus being your ruler in the 11th house. I think it's a very idealistic time for you. Certainly can be. Very good for your aspirations at the moment, future things, hopes and wishes. Some of you may be connecting to community or friends. That could be continuing, and this has already been the case with Venus and Mars there these past few weeks or longer with Mars. But yeah, really good for that. So I think continuing to see the future, continuing to cultivate your aspirations, and maybe get involved with some of these group things or friends, connecting your friends, networking, things like this, can be a great source of energy for you, motivation with Mars. But all in all, just enjoying it. I think with Venus, there might be some wounds about it, of course. Chiron is in that 11th house of yours. But that's okay. You're healing these wounds about your ability to cultivate your aspirations, or maybe be a part of, network or group or community or something like that. So continue to do that healing. It's not a week of that, but I just want to mention since Chiron is in that 11th. All right. So yeah, that's your ruler as a backdrop. Coming into this week, of course, it is this still lunar eclipse, part of the cycle. of this lunar cycle, and that was the lunar eclipse in your 4th house. A lot of you probably gained some insight about your health, or some of you about your location, or things relating to your family, or maybe your home. Maybe a lot of you are reflecting on things from the past, getting in touch with, your roots in life. So whatever it was, whatever those insights were from last weekend, continuing to move those forward this week, I think is fantastic. For the bulk of the week, you are going to have the moon in the 5th house, this first half, so you'll likely have good self-expression, which is really what the whole lunar eclipse was about anyways, of Leo, cultivating a bit of the fun, the playful, lighthearted, creative energy of life. And I think, all in all, that could be emphasized this first half of the week for you. Along with that, Monday through Tuesday, these first couple days of the week, the sun is going to be sextiling up to Saturn. So, yeah, I think you are feeling probably quite structured with the home life or family life, or with your health. There's some things moving forward there. I think it's quite grounded. I think you're feeling quite grounded with a lot of that. The sun's actually going to be shifting into your 10th house. So there is this shift about midweek towards the more productive side of life anyways, where I think you are seeing the big picture. You might start to gain some good energy by working on your career or your productive life, whatever that is for you personally. It's not always for profit like career, but anything productive. And the sextile from Saturn does signify that I think you have been, really establishing yourself with your whole perspective on relationships, all right, these past couple of years, or actually not even that long yet, but almost a couple of years. So there is this, still structure, and I think you are willing to be patient with the whole relationship dynamic this week. It's easier than most with the easy aspect up to Saturn there. And just have a bit of patience with all of that and whatever else, maybe relationship oriented, maybe something presenting itself this first half of the week for, again, a bit of discipline there and structure, and wanting these long-term relationships, new and existing ones, that are based on truth and based on the real, the committed, the raw Saturn in Ophiuchus, all about what matters and truly matters. So that's the early part of the week. Then the second half, Wednesday through Friday, Mercury will be sextiling up to Mars. So there is a good synergy here with a few of these different areas. One is the fact that, your mind is still very open-minded, I think, at the moment, or you're thinking about things philosophically, or some of you might be doing some higher learning, some studying on that regard. Some of you might be thinking about, or actually doing some light travel, or going for walks, or just feeling a bit more adventurous. That was the whole last lunar cycle of the 9th. So that's still continuing, but it's mostly with your mind. And I think just thinking open-minded can be very supportive this week, particularly Wednesday through Friday with the sextile up to Mars, where I think you're starting to link up this week the possibilities, that open mind, with those future ideals. All right, with that idealistic side of yourself, which again is very strong at the moment. You may even find Wednesday through Friday, it's a bit of easy communication with your relationships, one-to-one connections, all types of relationships, whether they're your partner or clients, or whatever it might be, family. And then also too, I think you could be expressing yourself quite directly, communicating yourself quite directly. In fact, with Mars sextiling Mercury, Mercury rules your 5th. Maybe you're feeling quite creative or more ambitious creatively, which could be good. And even financially, I think you'll probably find Wednesday through Friday feeling quite resourceful. Maybe, generally speaking, of course, that's all part of your sign anyways, Taurus. But maybe feeling like you want to cultivate some of the financial or investments or savings or something like that. Or some of you, I guess, could be spending too, but there's something there that's maybe motivating you in that regard. So either way, this week is certainly easy in the sense that things are just sort of opening here. As we go to the second half of the week, there might be a bit of a clunky challenge as we get into the third quarter. But again, it's really about structuring and building upon the insights that you gained last weekend. And I think that's the simplest way of looking at this week. There's these easy aspects supporting all of it. And it's really what we make it. And I think for you personally, this sort of continuation of cultivating your ideals, all these future things, and maybe getting involved with some group or community stuff, the shift of focus to the productive, which can be very good, pretty much all week long, actually, especially with the sun sextiling Saturn. Yeah, good energy there. And then that open-mindedness, I think you have too, of seeing the big picture, philosophical, some of you tapping into that adventurous spirit, maybe with the routine, and just thinking about things more in that fashion. All right, so Taurus, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares, and I will see you all next week. Geminis, all right, let's have a look at this week for you. So Mercury, your ruler, still in the 8th house. I think things are still quite deep. It is a good time to dive deep, go within, see what really matters most to you in life. Think about that, or maybe just get more in touch with, yourself on a deeper level in terms of, diving deep, seeing where all these things are that we've sort of brushed under the rug in the past. That's been this whole lunar cycle of years in the 8th house, which has to do with essentially finding freedom, type of freedom of transformation. And I think in many ways you are transforming this week, although I think your mind will still be very deep. I think you'll still be learning a lot about yourself on the deeper level, your fears, inabilities, wounds, things like this that you can continue to learn about and heal as a result of that and transform as a result of that. But the sun is actually shifting out of the 8th house and into the 9th for you. So you'll likely find probably around Wednesday, Thursday, this sort of shift of focus, where although you're still thinking deeply and communicating deeply, there's this more larger picture I think you're seeing where you're gaining energy probably through a bit more of the adventurous side to life, right? A bit of the open mind. It's kind of like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. You're still in the cocoon, Mercury, your ruler, but on some level, in terms of how you're focused on things, there is this transformation of then seeing the big picture, sort of being free and accessing again that adventurous spirit. So all those things relating to like philosophy, going for walks, anything that expands your horizons can be a great source of energy this second half. Now, this is all in the context, of the lunar eclipse from last weekend, which was in your 3rd house. A lot of you maybe gained some insights about things having to do with the 3rd, such as reading, writing, communication, the importance of those things perhaps, or something specifically you've been working on the past 6 months there involving those. Or maybe it's more on the business level for some of you, or trade, or something like that. 3rd house is all about the synergy of things, whether it's the synergy of our minds, of thinking, or it's the synergy of our communication, or writing, or it's of trade and exchanging with others, sharing ideas, or maybe, the business stuff. So whatever that's been, whatever those insights were, I think it's great to continue to implement these things this week. And all in all, just continue to see, the importance of having good communication, having an open mind, having a willingness to treat life as a learning process. Of always being open-minded and willing to learn about things is excellent. This is all very natural for you anyways. You're Gemini, it's your 3rd house. It's, you naturally are associated with the 3rd house. Of these more practical, rational, mental perspectives on life. So that's the lunar eclipse in terms of what you can continue to certainly cultivate this week. Monday and Tuesday in particular, the sun will be sextiling up to Saturn. So there is this good constructive energy, like I was saying, probably with that communication, in fact. Probably feeling quite grounded there, your mind's grounded, or what anything else involving sharing, exchanging, business, learning, communication, all of that probably quite solid for you with that sextile from Saturn. And a lot of this, in terms of how it's kind of fitting together, is that, over the past almost 2 years, but about past year and a half, you've had Saturn in your 6th, really helping you take, your routine serious or your work seriously, and really establish these daily things. good health, personal development, hopefully. But if not, maybe your craft at work or things like that. So continuing to sort of see all this in terms of where you can continue to develop and grow as a person, and then develop and grow your work on a daily level, I think is also very productive this week. Now, that Wednesday, yep, Sun will be shifting into the 9th, so you'll likely feel a bit more of that larger picture there. You do have Venus and Mars at the top of the chart still, so a lot of you are still quite motivated towards your career or productive life, which could be really good. Some of you are forming relationships or enjoying a bit of relationships through career or through your productive life, or maybe just enjoying a bit of the productive side of things. Really seeing the value. Actually, a lot of you can be seeing the value of your career for you personally. And there might be some wounds around that. I do want to mention Chiron is, of course, in the 10th, but you've been doing that healing, and it's more subjective, more inward. And then through the healing, it'll help you continue to cultivate all this productive stuff. But Wednesday through Friday, your ruler will be sextiling up to Mars, so you could be feeling quite ambitious this second half of the week, which could be quite good. Maybe it is about getting down to the bottom of things. Maybe it's about research. Maybe it's about connecting to what matters. Maybe it's about that career again. It could certainly be with Mars up there in the 10th. So it's involving a few key areas. I think your routine will probably flow quite nicely Wednesday through Friday. We will be in the third quarter phase, so there is a bit of integration, maybe a bit of clash, collectively speaking, with the third quarter, because the Sun and Moon will be in a square. But I think for you, you're seeing this bit of momentum. I think you're willing to challenge yourself, willing to take some action, and again, it could be ambitious for you. So it's involving a few areas. It could be with your routine, could be with your aspirations, could be with really diving deep with things, and again, that career as well. All right, so that is the week in a nutshell, Gemini. Essentially what we've got here is this still deeper perspective on things, really continuing to dive deep with yourself, where you can do that acceptance of any fears, inhibitions, traumas even, if it's that deep for you. But all in all, just, really connecting to the deeper side of life and seeing the deeper side of life. I think you're naturally doing that anyways. And as a result, these transformations are happening naturally. The Sun shifting into the 9th does suggest that some aspect of this is being transformed, particularly with probably the way you're thinking about things, in the sense that the Sun rules your 3rd. It's going into the 9th. You're probably much more open-minded the second half of the week, seeing a big picture and not so much into the dark, which was certainly the case with both Sun and Mercury there. Monday through Tuesday, the Sun sextiling up to Saturn, really supporting the communication. Like I was saying, it's all part of this lunar eclipse. In fact, so a lot of the stuff you learned about communication, or the importance of exchanging and learning and all of this, continuing this week. And good motivation and drive towards the productive, which is Mars and Venus up at the top, or maybe enjoying a bit of that productive life as well. All right, so Geminis, have a fantastic week. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and shares, and I'll see you all next week. Cancers, let's have a look at this weekly forecast for your sign here. So first things first, your ruler, the moon, did just have a lunar eclipse last weekend around Friday. So usually a very significant time for both Cancers and Leos, because they involve the sun and moon, your rulers. So the moon being your ruler, I think coming into this week, there is still a lot of momentum and energy. Again, some insights that maybe you gained from last weekend. A lot of it had to likely do with your inner and outer resources. You had that lunar eclipse in your second house. And this could be inner resources in terms of some of you learned about what you're worth. Of course, that's a very subjective thing, but that's the whole point. What you believe you're worth. Maybe what your time's worth, your energy's worth, the values you want to extract out of life. Inner values. But then externally too, a lot of you likely gained some insight about your finances, maybe, or investments, or the importance of self-reliance. Standing on your own 2 feet, cultivating a good material security in life. So whatever that's been, though, whatever those insights were, it's a great week to continue to implement them as we move forward in this lunar cycle. Now, Monday through Tuesday, the sun will be sextiling up to Saturn. So there is this good constructive energy about the first couple days, probably about you feeling quite resourceful, feeling quite self-reliant and constructive. There could even be some financial opportunities on a minor note, but I think with the sextile, it's just more you're feeling like cultivating them and maybe doing some, thinking about the budget or savings or investments or something like that. Or all in all, just enjoying the simple life. A lot of this too, being grateful for what you have, cultivating, just a greater awareness and appreciation for the values that you do have in your life. So it's quite central, quite easygoing beginning of the week with a lot of the material side to things. Wednesday, the sun does shift into your 8th, so this will be starting a new beginning. Not quite yet, but during the next new moon. In regards to the deeper side to life, I think you'll probably notice the second half your focus is shifting onto more of the deeper side, whether it's what really matters to you in life, just seeing things a bit more deeply, seeing yourself a bit more deeply. The sun just kind of shines a light, and the 8th house is everything that's usually hidden. So a lot of you are now starting to gain some awareness about the things that are hidden, whether they're about yourself, maybe some things, as we all do, brush under the rug. Now it's time to sort of be aware of them, accept them. And then maybe externally too, you're just seeing life in a deeper way. You're seeing the deeper dimensions of life. And that can be a great source of energy and prana for you. And again, I think that'll be setting a stage for a much larger cycle around the corner. Now, this is all in relation to the fact that the sun's actually coming out of the 7th. So 7th house has been placing a big emphasis on relationships. I think you're still learning quite a bit about relationships with Mercury there. Or maybe feeling like communicating or sharing ideas through, relationships or people or whatever it is, your daily interactions. And so the 8th house shift could also be that you're wanting to get a bit deeper in your relationships, like your existing ones. Or maybe generally, maybe with new relationships too. But a bit of that openness and vulnerability, I think, can be great as well. So anyways, that's quite easy, collectively speaking, with Saturn sextiling the sun. As the sun shifts into the 8th there. Could be good for the relationships, the depth, the openness, again, the resourceful side of yourself, and probably expressing yourself in a constructive and grounded way as you've been sort of developing the past roughly 1.5 to 2 years with Saturn in the 5th. Saturn's been helping you really structure and discipline your self-expression so you are expressing yourself in grounded ways and having fun and enjoying things in grounded ways. And I think you certainly got that going coming into this week. Then Wednesday, Friday, Mercury does sextile up to Mars. So this is a reminder that there is a lot of energy here in your 9th house. And so, I think you're motivated probably to expand your horizons at the moment. Some of you might be studying some philosophies, higher learning. Some of you might just be feeling a bit adventurous at the moment, going for walks or hikes or just kind of accessing a bit of that open range. But whatever it is, accessing the adventure spirit is very motivating. I think you can enjoy it if it's reading a book or going for a walk, whatever it is. And that's Mars and Venus in that 9th. Or maybe you're just thinking big, seeing the possibilities and potentials in life, and that being a motivating and enjoyable side to things. But anyways, with Mercury sextiling up to that Mars, there is a lot of ease with that. And it's involving a lot of areas. You'll probably find Wednesday through Friday it's quite easy to express yourself. Maybe the work life, something presenting itself there, or just a bit of flow with the career life. Maybe with your home, maybe again feeling quite inspired, and and really linking up the whole relationships with the open-mindedness, right? Maybe feeling like you want to discuss philosophies or possibilities and potentials there. All right, so it's just an opening with the sextiles, but again, it's an easy week. I do recommend certainly continuing to cultivate the insights you gained from last Friday, whatever they were. More than likely, something to do with the resources of life, both inner resources of cultivating that sense of self-worth, and then also the external resources of cultivating your values in terms of your maybe finances or having some material security. So all in all, that's the week as a backdrop to continue with that. But within that context, there is some things shifting, certainly emphasizing a continuation of exchanging in relationships, learning in relationships, the shift of focus into the deeper dimensions of life, both with relationships, but with life in and of itself. And great adventure spirit, open-mindedness with Venus and Mars in the 9th, certainly available. And then all these easy aspects supporting all of that as well. All right, so Cancers, have a fantastic week. I want to thank you very much for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And if you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. All right, have a great week. I'll see you all next week. Leos, all right, let's have a look at this weekly forecast for your sign. So, of course, the most important thing is that, and you do have a lot of important things going on actually this week with the sun, but the fact that we just had a lunar eclipse last Friday in your sign, so you likely gained a lot of insight about yourself, actually. Maybe about the things that you want in life, your personal needs. Maybe a lot of you gained some awareness about the importance of independence in your life in some sense. And a lot of you, again, are really cultivating this independence from the past 6 months. But whatever these insights were about yourself, about your ambitions, your goals, your personal needs, your self-image even, all this stuff relating to you, it is a great week to continue to move this stuff forward, to cultivate it and implement it in your life. And the aspects, the easy aspects are supporting this. This week, starting with Monday through Tuesday, the sun sextiling up to Saturn does suggest that there is this sort of groundedness actually to you coming into the week with your ruler, the sun. Probably wanting a bit of order and structure in your life, good for the productive life, feeling quite grounded in general. Okay, maybe in terms of how you're expressing yourself. A lot of this is actually because you've done a lot of work, probably emotionally, over the past year and a half, roughly, with Saturn down at the bottom of your chart, which has been really helping you, structure your roots. And that could be your roots right now with maybe working hard towards your health. Some of you with your family or your home or your location. This is the area you can really sort of take seriously with Saturn down in the 4th. And that can certainly be helping you this week. It could be a great aid for you actually as you continue to sort of ground your structures in life, as it were. So all that's very much supportive. There is this shift with the sun, in fact, going into your 7th house. So I think where you have been strongly focused on probably your routine or your work this past roughly month, the sun is going to be shifting into your 7th around Wednesday. So the second half of the week, you'll likely find that you are more focused on relationships actually, and gaining energy through them. This could be all relationships, whether it's your romantic partner or it's clients or business, family relationships, friends, all types of one-to-one connections. That's where I think your focus will be. I think your mind's still going to be on the routine and all that, and that's good. That's Mercury in the 6th. You'll still be learning a lot about all that in your work also, maybe communicating there and whatnot. The sun going into the 7th, certainly this focus now on the relationship side of things. And that's going to be the new moon for you, in fact, here in a couple weeks. So certainly a shift there from the everyday to the more interpersonal side of things. Wednesday through Friday, Mercury does sextile up to Mars. So this will be involving a lot of different areas. Again, that practical mind you've got with the routine or work will definitely be supporting what has been a deep time for you, I think. Mars and Venus have been in your 8th house, really helping you dive deep to what matters most in life, right? And cultivate those things that are very important to you. And maybe communicating yourself, expressing yourself in deeper ways with Venus. Maybe your work has been, going through this sort of transformation, perhaps all about your perspective of it. And again, seeing what matters to you most there. Your relationships likely a bit of openness and vulnerability. So it's involving a lot of key areas. And I think what you'll find is this week, it is quite easy actually to dive deep or to communicate yourself, express yourself in a deeper way, or have vulnerability in relationships, or cultivate the things that truly matter most to you. And really, when it comes to a personal level, diving deep within yourself to see if there are any fears or inhibitions that you have that you can accept and transform. And that's essentially what Mars and Venus will be helping you do. Venus will be going retrograde pretty soon, I think in the next couple weeks. So there will be a lot to learn about this, but this week there's a bit of flow, a bit of easiness where you are connecting to that depth, I think, quite easily. All right, so let me see what other areas here. Yeah, Mars rules your fourth. Could be Wednesday through Friday, a bit of flow with the health, with the home, family, things like this. Maybe feeling a bit adventurous or open-minded. The resources, maybe something flowing there, some opportunities possible for some of you. And then maybe like connecting to your friends or groups, things like this. Or you're feeling quite inspired also with that. So a lot of key areas Wednesday through Friday. But the most important thing is that, this is all part of a much larger picture about you continuing to cultivate that independence, those personal needs, and again, this greater awareness of who you are, what you're about, and what you want out of life. And whatever insight you gained last weekend about that, it is the week to certainly be moving that forward. You'll find a bit of momentum coming into this week with it, especially with your Sun sextiling Saturn, probably quite productive and grounded. And then the shift of focus, probably more in terms of relationships, enjoying those one-to-one connections, gaining energy through that. And then Wednesday through Friday, a bit of flow with depth and openness, as well as continuing with that routine and structure and work that I think your mind will certainly still be on. All right, so Leos, have a fantastic week. Thank you for watching, and thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Be more than happy to answer them for you, and have a fantastic week, Leo. Take care. Virgos, let's have a look at this week specifically for your sign here. So first things first, let's talk about your ruler Mercury, right? So you got Mercury in your fifth house. I think it is a great time for you to be getting creative at the moment, perhaps. Some of you may be continuing with cultivating some hobbies or interests if you've started something like that these past few weeks. Some of you connecting with your children, if you have children in your life. Some of you with your creative projects, business, entrepreneurship, speculation for some of you, and even romance for some of you also too. So essentially all the stuff that you're passionate about in life that is close to the heart is great at the moment. I think you're learning a lot about that with Mercury there. It could even be associated with your career too. Some of you may be getting creative in your career or expressing yourself through there more. And all in all, just kind of seeing the big picture with these passions of yours. So that's Mercury in your fifth. The lunar eclipse last Friday was in your 12th house. So this week is a continuation and implementation of the insights you gained, probably relating to where you can have some peace in your life, a bit of tranquility, or maybe cultivate your spiritual side. For some of you, if it's more tangible like that, maybe quite literally spiritual, but generally, just diving deep, seeing what, just connecting to your being and see what insights come in as a result of that. So whatever that was, that probably had more to do with the etheric, spiritual dimensions of things and the things that, go beyond just the physical realm. Whatever those insights were, it's a fantastic week to be implementing them, especially with the moon in your sign. Monday through Wednesday, or maybe even Thursday, I believe. So the bulk of the week with the moon in Virgo, helping you cultivate, the action of that and really move this stuff forward in an active, productive, forward-moving sort of sense. Now, coming into this week, along with this cultivation of those insights, The sun is going to be sextiling up to Saturn. So there is good harmony here, good synergy actually between all of this more tranquil energy. I think you're coming into the week probably quite relaxed, or just willing to be and go with the flow a bit. And that's actually grounding you, in fact. And you could be probably expressing yourself in quite constructive ways with Saturn sextiling the sun from the 5th. And a lot of this is actually from a lot of the hard work that maybe you've been doing these past, we'll say about 1.5 to 2 years with learning. Some of you have been taking your correspondence seriously, communication seriously, anything about the practical mind. And that's going well for you this opening of the week as well. Now, Wednesday, we do have a shift with the sun. The sun is going to leave that 5th house. And although it'll still be very much about that self-expression and those passions, there is a shift with the sun. So your focus will likely start to go into a bit of maybe your work or your routine, your daily tasks. All this stuff that's very natural for you Virgos anyways. The second half of the week, I think, really good for that. Personal growth, personal development, maybe organizing your routine, getting involved with work, developing your craft skills, whatever it is. All of this is a great source of that prana, that life force. Then Wednesday through Friday, your ruler Mercury does sextile up to Mars. So with this second half, you'll probably be feeling quite ambitious, I would imagine. And maybe some of it does have to do with relationships, in fact. There's been a lot of motivation here. A lot of you have been very direct with your relationships. Independence, seeing the importance of independence there. Communication in relationships has been emphasized more than likely. A bit of depth in relationships. Let's see what else. Venus rules your 2nd. So the values of your relationships, just all in all, enjoying them, I feel like. And seeing the possibilities there. So there's been a lot of relationship stuff. But most fundamentally, it's been motivating you, and you can enjoy it. And so I think it's a great Wednesday through Friday for that. And maybe even, again, expressing yourself there. Having a bit of that playful, fun energy that really does come about from the 5th house, right? Which is fun, playfulness. Sort of bringing that into the relationships Wednesday through Friday, all right? And I do want to mention, too, with your ruler still in Capricorn, you're likely quite grounded and productive, as it has been the case. And I think it's a great time for that, with that bit of ambition. Maybe using a bit of that, direct energy, ambitious energy into anything productive or that you do want to build in your life. All right, so Virgos, that's the week in a nutshell. The way I would sum this up is essentially you've got your ruler in the 5th, great time for self-expression and cultivating all those things that you're passionate about, those things close to your heart. Still learning about that, but cultivating them nonetheless. From last weekend, likely some insight about the importance of peace, or getting in touch with the spiritual dimensions of life, and implementing that this week is fantastic. You do have the sun shifting into your 6th, so the shift of focus into the work or the routine could certainly be highlighted. That's going to be the location of the next new moon in a couple weeks. So some new beginnings with your work for some of you, with your routine around the corner. And again, the greater context of relationships. Very good directness, motivation, drive, and again, enjoying those one-to-one connections. All right, so Virgos, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Libras, let's have a look at this weekly forecast for your sign here. So first things first, you do have your ruler still in the 6th house with Mars. So it is a good time, I think, for your routine, maybe your work, developing those things in your life, maybe quite motivated, in fact, towards your personal growth and development, your craft at work, or whatever it is on that daily level. Not to mention, you can certainly enjoy it with your ruler in the 6th. So that's the backdrop in terms of what has been unfolding, I think, where your mind is and what you're cultivating. But more recently, from the lunar eclipse last weekend, you likely gained some insights about what you're aspired towards, or what your ideals are about, or maybe some of you sort of came to this high point with whatever you've cultivated the past 6 months, involving your aspirations or involving friends, groups, and network circles. That's all the 11th house stuff. So whatever those insights were, it is an excellent week to continue to move them forward. There's a lot of easy aspects to support that this week. Now, Monday through Tuesday, one of those easy aspects is going to be the Sun sextiling up to Saturn. So I think you'll likely be feeling quite constructive about some of this big picture stuff, these future things, these things larger than yourself, we could say, if it is group oriented. So constructive nonetheless. It has been a very, let's say, emotional or receptive time for you, simply because you've got a lot of energy down here in the 4th house. So things maybe relating to your home, family, or health could be flowing coming into this week, or you're just feeling more grounded about it. But the Sun is going to be leaving that 4th house and going into your 5th about Wednesday. So the first half, still certainly a great time to be connecting with home, family, health, these types of things. All week, really, with Mercury already here, I think you're learning a lot about it. Or you're just thinking about, your sentiments, the things and the people that you're, sentimentally connected to. But certainly about Wednesday, the shift towards the more expressive side of things. Or creative, or your passions and interests in life. And that's going to be the Sun shifting into the 5th. It's also going to be a new moon in a couple weeks. So there are some new beginnings taking place with your self-expression. I think you'll likely notice that shift Wednesday in terms of probably focused more on the things that are close to the heart, or the things that you do create in life. All right, so that's the shift there. Then Wednesday through Friday, Mercury does sextile up to Mars. This is sort of bringing in an opening with both, again, your emotional side to life, which could flow quite nice Wednesday through Friday, whether it's home, family, or maybe your health even. And again, the work and routine with all of that energy in your 6th, personal growth and development. So it's going to be involving a few key areas, but all in all, I think you'll likely find that there's an open mind about these things. Maybe you are feeling a bit tranquil, in fact, regarding the routine, the work. There's a bit of flow there, a bit of easygoingness. Some of you might be developing some relationships with family, if you haven't already been, with all this 4th house activity, seeing the value of your family, things like this. Again, and continuing the value of your work, maybe even continuing to meet relationships at work. So it's involving a lot of key areas, but Wednesday through Friday, certainly a bit of opening with the roots and with the routine and the work and that kind of thing. Just sort of an opening there for you to cultivate those key areas. But Libra, the way I would sum up this week is certainly the continuation of that lunar eclipse, of implementing whatever insights you gained around last Friday. Either your ideals in life, your aspirations, and some of you, your group and community sphere. So with that, I think seeing that there is support this week to do that, there's a bit of flow, especially in this disseminating phase coming into the week, to move that stuff forward. And again, in the greater context of the fact that there is a lot of good energy for you to get into personal growth and development, whether it's with your time management, your energy management, your work. There's a lot of easy aspects supporting that this week. Could be motivating you, could be enjoying that. And midweek, the shift of focus from what will still be, I think, a sort of protective, emotional time, of your reflection, your sentiments, things like this. The Sun shifting into your 5th, midweek, probably feeling a bit more expressive, creative, passionate, and cultivating those things that are close to your heart. All right, so Libra, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Scorpio and Ophiuchus, welcome to your portion of the weekly forecast. So let's first have a look at the backdrop here. You got your ruler still in the 5th house, Mars. Still an excellent time for you to be expressing yourself, cultivating those things that you're passionate about in life. You know, this has already been the energy for quite some time, but still continuing this week. Anything that's close to your heart or anything that you create is a great source of motivation and drive for you at the moment. And I think, again, just all in all, expressing yourself, whatever it might be, through entertainment or hobbies or whatever it is, passion, a bit of fun. That could be a motivating source, but also you're enjoying it, I feel like, with Venus there. Or maybe it's involving relationships, you know, a bit of a playful, lighthearted side to life as well, like in the sense of interpersonal connections. All right, so a lot of energy still in your 5th. There will be a lot of easy aspects with that, which we'll talk about from Mercury, particularly Wednesday through Friday. But let's look at this in the greater context of last Friday. So last Friday, we had the lunar eclipse in your 10th house. And so last weekend, you likely gained some insight about your productive life. Some of you, maybe your career, your legacy for some of you, your public life for some of you. But all in all, anything that you do produce or you're building in your life, usually career though. So whatever those insights were about the big picture stuff, it is an excellent week to be implementing that. Sort of gain that momentum. I think coming into this week, we do have a bit of momentum. We'll be in the disseminating phase where the sun and moon trine each other, coming off of lunar eclipse. Does suggest that, yeah, we can be implementing these insights. So along with that, the easy aspects Monday through Tuesday will be with the sun sextiling up to Saturn, who I think you'll probably be feeling quite structured and grounded with your productive life, in fact. You know, maybe, in fact, I think it's a fantastic week for that. You got Saturn in your 1st house. You got the sun who rules your 10th house. He's in your 3rd. I think a lot of you have been maybe getting into the mental side or learning a lot about your career. But whatever it is, you do have a good structure there, a good discipline coming into this week, which is essentially what you've been building already this past roughly year and a half with Saturn in your 1st house of assuming responsibility. And a lot of you have, and you're leveled up in many ways. I mean, there's Saturn's going to go retrograde back into Ophiuchus, of course, but you know, there's still a lot of this. You know, you're at the end of it, and there's a lot of this stuff you've already integrated with it. So, anyways, Monday through Tuesday, very productive, very good for that career stuff. Anything on a big picture, even communication and learning, the practical mind. You do have Mercury in your 3rd, and you know, the sun's been in your 3rd, but it's going to be shifting into your 4th. So once we get to about Wednesday, what you'll likely find is that there is this shift of focus, probably more to the emotional side to life. Some of you might be more focused on your health going into the next few weeks. Some of you might be more focused on your home life or your family life, and others your location, or maybe just feeling a bit more reflective, learning more about your past, where you come from, you know, both physically in this life, but maybe even too on a soul level. You know, the 4th house really is the house of the soul. So good energy there, good prana when you're focused on your sentiments, focused on your roots, and anything else that's sentimentally connected to you. And as a result, I think you're going to find that's going to be setting a sort of stage for what will be a new moon there actually in a couple weeks, a new beginning a bit down the line. So with that shift on Wednesday through Friday, Mercury will be then sextiling up to your ruler Mars. So you'll likely be feeling, again, quite communicative, or there's just a bit of good mental energy. But Wednesday in particular, maybe ambitious mentally. Maybe it's involving a bit of the fun stuff or creative stuff. Or maybe it's more about the practical. Maybe it's just a bit of both. You know, bringing the fun into reading the book or doing some journaling or writing or communicating or even trading and exchanging. Some of you, sometimes the 3rd house is a bit more business oriented. So maybe that's been more activated. So a bit of fun with that. And then vice versa, you know, really getting into the learning about what you enjoy and the practical stuff with these passions of yours, right? So it's involving a lot of areas. I think it'll be probably giving you a bit of ambition, actually. On a minor note, you know, these are easy aspects. Sextiles are just sort of openings, but maybe feeling quite ambitious. Maybe there's a bit of flow with your routine. And again, cultivating a bit of the fun as well as learning is just a really good synergy Wednesday through Friday. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus, that is the week in a nutshell. The way I would sum this up is essentially that it is a great time for you to be expressing yourself, fun, playfulness. That's your ruler in the 5th house. That's the backdrop to all of this. Whatever it is, whatever degree it is. For some of you, it's more business-oriented. Some of you, it's more relationship-oriented. Some of you, it's just more creative or whatever it might be, or family-oriented. But in the greater context of from last week, this is very productive time and very, illuminating time, I think, for your life path about your career specifically, or anything you have been building in your life. That's been the North Node in the 10th. And it's not about fully cultivating it either. It's always going to seem like there's more room for growth. But that's what you want to do, is you kind of want to just continue to learn about your career, learn about the productive, learn about all this bigger picture stuff. And this week, continue to implement that. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Sagittarius, let's have a look at this weekly forecast for your sign specifically here. So first of all, your ruler Jupiter is in the 10th house, is retrograde. So there's a lot of things to be sort of reconsidering at the moment. Maybe a lot of it does have to do with your career, your productive life. So that's essentially, as a backdrop, what you want to continue to do this week is just sort of give yourself the space to kind of rethink things, reconsider things. And again, it might have to do with your career specifically, or productive matters. Some of you may even too reconsidering things relating to your personal life, your home, family, health, things like this. So within that context, we did have that lunar eclipse last Friday in your 9th house. So what you likely gained last weekend was some insight about the importance of seeing the big picture, or learning more about your belief systems. Some of you accessing your adventurous spirit of life, and others maybe it's been more mental, like philosophy and spiritual studies and all this. Sort of a high point with a lot of that stuff last weekend. But with whatever insights you gained, or that status check you did about the life path, about this more expansive stuff in life, I think it's a great week to continue to implement and develop that, whether it's through your career, whatever the area might be, or just generally accessing a bit of that adventurous spirit. All right, so within that context, this greater context, there are some easy aspects this week. Sextiles are just sort of openings, but they're certainly available collectively. Monday through Tuesday, it could have to do with a bit of the practical material stuff that I think you've been thinking about and focused on. You've had the Sun and Mercury in your 2nd, helping you really develop your resources. And this could be your inner resources, such as your self-reliance of your natural gifts, natural abilities, cultivating those, as well as your sense of self-worth, all right, that you can, yes, attain and cultivate the things you truly value in life, but also externally too. A lot of you, this past few weeks have been cultivating your financial life, investments, savings, things like that, that type of self-reliance. So really good focus there coming into the week. You're going to have the Sun sextiling Saturn, grounding you there. Also, too, you're going to see, I think, that you have a good structural perspective on the big picture. Sun rules your 9th, so quite constructive, productive when it comes to these possibilities, which is good. Utilize it. I would recommend. It's an easy, opening to this week. We'll be in the disseminating phase. There's a bit of awareness and support still from that lunar eclipse. Now, Wednesday, we do have the shift of focus for you going into the 3rd house. The Sun will go from your 2nd to your 3rd. And so where I think you will still be thinking about the material and the values and all of that, and you can learn a lot about that with Mercury there, there is this shift of focus towards the practical. Some of you might find that over the next month, roughly, you might be wanting to do some reading, some writing, some communication, some learning, or maybe some business and trade. That kind of a thing is often third house also. So, so whatever that shift of focus is for you, I think anything on that practical level, on that exchanging level or learning level, can be a great source of energy and life force for you there with the sun. Then when we get to Wednesday through Friday, the sort of second half of the work week, Mercury will be sextiling up to Mars. So there's that ambitious sort of energy, right? I think a lot of the ambitiousness will be towards the values, the resources, the material security, most certainly, maybe even too with relationships and your productive life, your career, in fact. Those are all the key areas Mercury rules. In terms of Mars and Venus in your fourth, I think the type of motivation that you do have and the things you can certainly enjoy are probably more on an emotional level. You know, I think it's a great time to be motivating yourself towards your health, fundamentally for a lot of you, your family or your home, some of you your location, some of you just reflecting more on the past and connecting to your soul and all of this. So when you're putting energy into what is normally not an energy thing, you know, like home and family, but when you're motivated towards and you're putting energy there, I think you're going to find that's what's unlocking the ambition, that's what's unlocking the motivation there. Not to mention you could certainly be enjoying a bit of this private time or family time, or again connecting to your health, your body, you know, your soul, things like this. That's Venus there also. So anyways, you got a lot of support for that with Mercury then forming the aspect up to the fourth house. And you could even find maybe it's quite easy going Wednesday through Friday. Maybe you're expressing yourself quite easily, generally speaking, and again supporting that self-reliance there and that resourceful side of yourself. All right, so that is the week in a nutshell, Sagittarius. The way I would sum this up is you certainly are, you know, in this rehashing time, will be for about the next 4 months, which is good. It's good to be reconsidering things, still implementing, but with adaptability, flexibility, a lot of it involving the career, productive life. A lot of the insights you gained last weekend about possibilities or about that adventurous spirit or open-mindedness. Still great to be continuing to develop those things, especially if it's been something in particular like university studies for some of you, travel, whatever it might be there, you know, but anything that does expand those horizons. This week in particular, there's a lot of support. You know, so just easy energies, the sextiles, collectively speaking. Some of it does have to do with continuing with that resourceful side of yourself, both inner and outer resources, and then also too this sort of these sort of values and these motivations that you are also learning about but cultivating, involving your health, home, family, and all in all your soul. And I think what you'll notice about midweek is this shift of focus towards the more practical learning, sharing, exchanging side to life. All right, so Sagittarius, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your support, and I will see you all next time. Take care. Capricorns, let's have a look at this weekly forecast for your sign here. So first things first, you know, you got your ruler over here in the 11th house. It's been about the past year and a half. That's been an excellent time for you to cultivate your aspirations, future things, your personal aspirations, your personal hopes and wishes, and even too, for some of you, cultivate a bit of a community, maybe connecting to your friends, your network circles. Some of you getting quite technological and innovative perhaps with Saturn there. But whatever it is, I think most fundamentally your aspirations. And coming into this week, we do have the sun sextiling up to your ruler. So you'll likely find that you are expressing yourself quite easily, or you're quite creative, in fact. Or maybe there's just a bit of passion or something involving some of these ambitions, or just involving you. So that's a lot of it because of the fact that you've had the sun in your first house and will be up and through Wednesday. You got Mercury still in your first house. So, as it has been, but coming into this week, your mind is very much on your goals, your personal needs, things like this. It's a fantastic time. A lot of you just had your birthdays. I mean, if you're watching for your sun sign, you had your birthday these past few weeks, 4 weeks. But even for your ascendant and moon signs, there's been this new beginning with the sun in your sign, helping you cultivate more awareness of what you're about, knowing more about your goals, your ambitions in life, and cultivating those things that are important to you. So that's still very much continuing, and I think coming into this week, I think you'll feel that you are focused on that, and that's a good source of motivation, drive, good energy, and life force with the sun in the first. Then about Wednesday, the sun is going to be shifting into your second house. So a lot of you will notice about midweek, there is this shift of focus now towards probably wanting a bit of that material security, going within, seeing where you can. First of all, I think be grateful for what you have, be aware of what you have in your life. Appreciation, gratitude, all this really does set the seeds within for the external manifestation of this stuff. And you will be having a new beginning here. You're going to have a new moon in a couple of weeks in the second. So as you lead up to that, I think just continue to focus on your values, seeing what you have, but then also seeing what you truly value in life, how to cultivate that, or just focused on it. And through all this insight you're gaining about it, that'll likely be setting the seeds for the new beginnings, which are certainly around the corner for that. A lot of you too, I think cultivating your natural gifts and natural abilities could also be a great source of focus as well. Some of you too may be connecting to earth, enjoying the simple life, a good meal, a hot bath, relaxation, all of this, relaxing into earth, everything earth provides, which is mostly everything that we're surrounded by nowadays. Connecting to that, enjoying it, relaxing into it, I think is fantastic. Now, the second half of the week, Wednesday through Friday, we do have Mercury sextiling up to Mars. So this is a reminder that it is a great time to be learning, getting into the practical side of things, communication, exchanging, whether it's through trade and business, or if it's through ideas, through writing, reading, journaling, that type of exchanging of ideas. But whatever it is that's on that practical level, I think it's great. You got a lot of motivation here. There's a lot of drive with Mars in the third house. I think you're communicating yourself in direct ways, which can be very good. You got Venus here, and also at the same time charismatically, with mutuality and balance. The way you're thinking about things and communicating things. Probably quite expressive at the moment as well. You've even seeing all the practical stuff with your career and whatnot. So whatever it is, in terms of what has been motivating you and you've been enjoying with the practical, I think you'll find Wednesday through Friday, there's just a bit of flow with that. You're probably communicating things easily, relatively speaking. It's a great time to be learning, picking up a book, writing, whatever it might be there. And again, anything involving sharing or exchanging. So that's going to be the sextile for Mercury. And again, as a reminder that it is a great time to continue to learn about yourself and really think about your goals, what it is you want to see in this whole solar cycle that you are still very much in a monthly sense, because we're still in that Capricorn cycle, but really for the next 6 months. And this is, again, all in the context of what was that lunar eclipse last Friday, which was in your 8th house. A lot of you gained a lot of insight about the deeper side to life, about yourself, about what really matters to you in life. And maybe even some of you too on an interpersonal level, where you can rely on others a bit, have a bit of interdependency, understanding that we of course live in an interdependent world, and it's good to have some healthy attachments, some healthy bonds, some healthy interdependency. Maybe it's material for some of you, like shared resources. Others, maybe it's more about openness and vulnerability there, the emotional side to relationships and interconnections. Or some of you gained a lot of insight about what matters most, in the sense of you're stripping away all the fears. You're doing this sort of transformation from the past 6 months. And the more you learn about yourself on a deeper level, the more you accept these deep wounds and things like this, you're going to find that it's all part of the life path for you. And there's always more to do, of course, but just a little bit of that depth and openness and vulnerability with yourself and life, I think is really going a long ways this week. And that's essentially what you want to do this week, is really continue with those insights from last weekend, whatever they were. But I would say certainly in terms of getting a bit of the depth and openness and vulnerability in that way of learning about all that, learning about yourself, learning about what matters most to you in life. All right, so that is the week in a nutshell. Certainly a continuation of this whole lunar cycle of your sign. Still learning a lot about yourself, about the importance of independence, about cultivating those personal needs of yours. You're likely to notice this shift about midweek, the sun going into your second, having more to do with resources or finances. And a bit of that appreciation can really go a long ways as well. So this is in the much larger context of the fact that it's all been very much about your aspirations in life, your ideals. Some of you group and community stuff can be very constructive. And again, implementing these insights from last weekend about what matters, about depth, openness, and connecting to the truth of life. And let's not forget, it's a great time to be learning, reading, writing, practical stuff, communication with Mars and Venus in the third. All right, so Capricorns, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. And I will see you all next week. Aquarius, let's have a look at this weekly forecast. So first things first, happy birthday for those of you who are watching for your sun signs, who have your birthday the second half of the week. But for all of you, you got the sun shifting into your sign this week around Wednesday. So certainly the shift from what has been and still is very much a behind the scenes time. You know, you've had the sun and still Mercury in the 12th house. Been a really good time to get that alone time, reflective, meditative, alone, finding that peace and really just connecting to your beingness. But now things are certainly unfolding in a way of focusing on your personal needs now and independence and taking action in all of this. So it'll be a subtle shift. You know, the sun's got to make his way in there. Mercury's going to go in there. Venus will eventually actually go retrograde. And no, she's not going to go back to Aquarius. Never mind. But you'll have a new moon, in fact, in a couple weeks in Aquarius. So things are unfolding in steps. But certainly the shift of now more of a focus on your independence, right? And I think just learning more about yourself these next few weeks, learning more about your goals, what you want out of life, your ambitions, your personal needs and all of this, I think can be fantastic. Now, this is all part of a greater context of that lunar eclipse we had last weekend. A lot of you likely gained a lot of insight, or at least just came to the status check and this awareness about relationships for you. And that was a high point, in fact, from over the past 6 months for you in regards to relationships. So with whatever insights you did gain around the weekend, I think it's a great week to continue with implementing them, continue with learning about relationships and just bringing in a bit of that sort of inquisitive nature about them, you know, with the North Node there. Learning about them, just it's not so much about getting to an end point with the relationships or being totally satisfied or anything like that. You know, it's all projection, but you know, just learning about relationships and appreciating them and just kind of going with the flow with them, and all of that is essentially where the life path is taking you in terms of learning and growing and appreciating all one-to-one connections, whether they're new ones or existing ones in general. So anyways, a great week for that, implementing a lot of that, harmony, cooperation, and willingness to see that big picture with all that. This is all also in a context of the fact that your ruler Saturn is in the 10th house. So it has been over this past year and a half, really good to be kind of patient and take the serious approach to your career and productive life. And I think you'll probably find a bit of flow with that actually coming into the week when the sun sextiles up to Saturn. So maybe a bit of flow with the career, the productive life, generally speaking. And maybe it's just quite easygoing, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're feeling like you're able to relax and get some more peace and alone time or something like that, or you're just more easygoing in your career or something. Or there's a good structure in your relationships too, in fact, Monday through Tuesday. The sun does rule that 7th house of yours. So it's involving a few areas, but I would say certainly feeling constructive, feeling maybe expressive, a bit creative, and easygoing coming into this week. Then Wednesday's the shift into the 1st, and then Wednesday through Friday, Mercury does sextile up to Mars. So again, I think there's a lot of opportunity this week to meditate, to get that alone time and whatnot, and also too to be cultivating your values. You've had a lot of energy in your 2nd house, Venus and Mars here. You can be very motivated, in fact, towards cultivating your savings or investments, your finances, your budget, whatever that's been for you personally. And most fundamentally, your inner resource, cultivating that, knowing that you do have everything to cultivate the things you truly value in life, that you can. And it's about accessing the inner sense of self-worth, the inner self-reliance, those natural gifts and natural abilities of yours as well. So all this stuff relating to your values, probably on a material level, has been very motivating for you. It's a great source of energy with Mars, and you can be enjoying, in fact, appreciating and having gratitude for the things you do have in life, and attracting that too with Venus in the 2nd. So that is the week in a nutshell. A lot of easy aspects, but they're just sextile. They're just sort of openings. It's more like kind of a pause from the major astrological events that have taken place coming into this year. So use it though. It's good because of that lunar eclipse, through those insights you gained last weekend, maybe about relationships, to kind of move stuff forward, and you got a bit of opening for that. A lot of it's probably about, again, the bigger picture with the career, productive life, seeing the long road with that. A lot of you have been working hard there, and you're establishing that. The shift of focus into your 1st house midweek, starting to see more about your goals, your personal needs, your independence, taking action, motivating yourself, all of this. That's a great source of energy. Continuing to motivate yourself towards your values in life and enjoy your values in life, material and otherwise. And Mercury in your 12th still, though, your mind's still very much, intuitive. And a lot of you even to listening to your dreams and that kind of thing, getting that kind of alone time. And dream journaling or writing or automatic writing, all of this really help you connect to that beingness, and maybe even to things like reading could be a great source of relaxation and tranquility, which I think your mind is still going through that processing of. All right, so Aquarius, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares, and I will see you all next week. Pisces, let's have a look at this weekly forecast for your sign specifically. So first things first, your ruler is retrograde, Jupiter, your traditional ruler here, retrograde in your 7th house. It is an inner time for you, an inward time, to listen to that inner guidance, that inner intuition, sort of reconsider, rehash some things in your life. It's still a great time to be implementing. We're in this still lunar, high point of this lunar cycle. We just had that lunar eclipse last weekend. There's a lot of insight to be implementing this week. But with this, I think adaptability, flexibility, just knowing that there's a lot to be learned and reconsidered and maybe just reworked in your life at the moment. That could be very good. Maybe it's involving your career too. Some of you might be reconsidering the productive stuff or rehashing that. And I think most fundamentally, it's been because there's been a lot of expansion for you with relationships. Your ruler's been in the 7th. So this past, what has it been, over 6 months now, Jupiter's been in your 7th, helping you connect with new and existing relationships, right? And so that's also going through a reconsideration, rehashing. So allowing yourself to do that, I think, is great. But continuing to move forward with those insights from last weekend. You likely gained some insight about your work or your routine or the importance of having structure in your routine, or with yourself, personal growth, personal development, health, whatever it's been for you there. Most fundamentally, your daily, whatever you do on a daily level. But those insights, great week to continue to implement them, move them forward in what can be, although going into a very receptive time, which we'll talk about. You do have Venus and Mars in your sign, in your first house. So a lot of you can be feeling good, looking good, connecting to relationships, enjoying the things that you value in life. Mars is motivating you. A lot of you are quite direct at the moment, or more ambitious, or there's some good physical energy and stuff too, often. And of course, Pisces is a very receptive sign, so it's likely done in a receptive way. But relatively speaking, there is a lot of this ambition and harmony and cooperation, all this really being embedded, I guess you could say, with your personality or with this whole cyclical cycle of your life at the moment. All right, so with that though, the sun is going to be shifting into your 12th about Wednesday. So the sun will be sextiled by Saturn here Monday through Tuesday, which does signify that you could be feeling quite grounded with the routine and structured there. A lot of this big picture stuff, these possibilities, I think, you are this week and have been, I think, recently, very grounded and structured with that things take time, possibilities take time, and things like university studies. Some of you have been working hard there. Some of you with long distance travel, some of you with philosophy, spirituality, whatever it's been. But with generally your mind of perspective, of belief, of possibility, you guys are really grounding that. So I think you got that going coming into this week, a bit of groundedness there with possibilities, and also with your aspirations, in fact, too. This whole lunar cycle has been about cultivating your aspirations and maybe connecting to your friends or network circles. And I think, your mind will certainly still be on these progressive things or these aspiring things, and that's great. The sun is going to be shifting into the 12th, which does mean that over for about the next few weeks, you'll find that there is more energy to be gained maybe behind the scenes, working behind the scenes, getting some alone time, some intuitive time, meditative time. All of this is essentially what is shaping up for you over this next few weeks. You'll have a new moon there as well. And then it's, cyclically, the time to do that right before the sun goes into your first to join up with Venus. And I think Mars will still be there at that time, which will be a very active time for you. But to do that, of course, we do need that R&R. We need that rest. We need that intuitive time. And I think you'll notice that shift on Wednesday. Then Wednesday through Friday, Mercury does sextile up to Mars. So again, there is easy aspects forming up between this future mind of yours, this progressive mind, certainly activated. Could be a really good second half for connecting to your friends, anything involving your personal aspirations, maybe even relationships in your home life, in fact, or your health. But also too, learning more about yourself, and again, quite motivated towards your goals and personal needs, enjoying a bit of the interconnectedness of your life, learning, and maybe even feeling quite resourceful or grounded in regards to the fact that you can cultivate your values in life. So this is also involving a lot of key areas, but the way I would sum this up is you got a good synergy this week, both with the open mind and the tranquil, as well as the aspirations and your personal needs, your goals, your ambitions, things like this. So anything relating to those key areas, I think you'll find goes well, but it's not, like a trine. These are sextiles, which means they're just kind of openings. They're just kind of there. I think the, most general way of looking at this week is that it's a sort of break from more of the intense and more, stronger astrological events, but they're certainly there. So there is flow, I think, from many insights from last weekend. You can certainly implement if you choose. Again, you're entering into a receptive time too, so you'll likely find that maybe you do want to get a bit of that R&R the second half of the week, or you're focused on things in that level. But you got all this energy in your first house too, of cultivating your drives, your ambitions, your motivations in life, and relationships, reconsidering those, rehashing those. And your routine could be continuing as well. All right. So Pisces, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Thank you for watching. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I will see you all next week.